Kim, thank you very much for sitting down with me tonight. You are running for a village trustee, so I appreciate you allowing us to get to know you a little better. So why don't you just start off, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up.
Sure. I'm Kimberly Huelsman. Where do I look? I probably should have asked. Can we start this again?
You can look at me. No.
I grew up in Frankfort, and I am a graduate from Lincoln Way High School in 1998. And then after that, I went to Quincy University in Illinois, got a bachelor's degree in history education, and then met my husband. And after graduation, we decided it was either moving to Kansas City, where he's from, or moving back here. And I won out.
Nice. Why was that? What made you decide to come back here?
Honestly, family. I mean, my husband's family is out in Kansas City, but my family's here. I was able to get a job right out of college, and he was still kind of looking. And so since we knew we were going to get married, and because I got the job here, it was an easy decision then to move back home because, it's where I belong.
Yeah, sure.
And I knew that I wanted to raise a family back where I grew up. So that's what we decided and moved here. My first job that I've had since college has been at Carl Sandburg High School, being a social studies teacher. So for the past 23 years, that is my second home. It's my home away from home, right?
So is that social studies is what you teach, and you've taught it ever since you've been there?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I started in 2002 at Sandburg, and I've taught a lot of different history courses, but mainly it's been government for the past 23 years. So I'm kind of been rooted in that since the beginning. So throughout my journey as an educator, I was given the opportunity to get a master's at Chicago State in history then, and then I was awarded the James Madison Fellowship in 2011, which allows for the United States Congress to deem me a constitutional scholar. So I was able to study at Georgetown and then got my political science degree at Governor State. So
how is that awarded to you, or what happens that you get that?
Yeah, so you have to apply, and then you have to go through an interview process, and you do need recommendations at a higher level to be awarded, because it's only one person per state each year that gets awarded.
Wow.
So I was lucky enough, honored, to be awarded back in 2011 for that. So it was a great experience.
Is there anything that carries through from that? Do they still do anything?
So every year we have the open invitation to go to Georgetown to continue on with courses and to see their lectures and do some of their site tours if we would like. But it does open other opportunities for other professional development in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, I was awarded a Master History for the White House to be the lead teacher. So because of James Madison, I was able to have that door open too. So there was a lot of different doors that opened due to that. So
what does that mean? Did you get to go to the White House?
I went to the White House and with the other teachers that were there as well. And we did quite a few site tours around DC then. We stayed mostly at the White House Historical Society and did a lot of rooted tours with that. We were able to go to the State Department and do like behind the scene tours. So it was really neat. And the different people you meet and the scholars that you meet, and then the different politicians. I mean, it's pretty interesting.
Any favorite history spots that you got to see in DC? I mean, they're endless to pick from.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, I've gone quite often to DC, and I still have a long list that it's like every time I go, I want to try to do something new. But quite honestly, I just love sitting on the lawn by the Washington Monument and just absorbing all the history around and seeing all the tours that go through and the joy on people's faces to be in our nation's capital and just to see them enjoy history. I do love that. So.
Have you ever laid on your back at the base of the monument and with your legs on and looked up?
So cool.
Isn't that wild?
Like, it is anybody who can do that, go ahead and do that, because it is like once in a lifetime experience to do that.
But very cool.
I always like to go to Arlington and give my respects to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, and even just tour around there because there's so many different things you can see in Arlington. I love, doing the main idea, like of Washington. Everybody wants to go to Washington and see the main things, go to the White House or go to the Capitol, but I like the little behind the scenes, smaller museums like the Suffragette Museum, as well as, well, it's not as small anymore, but the Magic Museum was pretty cool over there. So there's a lot of
Heard
different.
The Spy Museum was a really good one. The Spy Museum
is pretty cool. Yeah, I try to find the hidden treasures when I'm there. So.
Yeah, no, I love DC. We're going there for spring break this year, and my favorite. I mean, I love all of it, but going through Mount Vernon was always at the top. I mean, the idea of holding the post where George Washington himself, what I think is just wild. So.
Well, and just knowing why certain things were built and the dedication that went into building all of DC and the meaning behind of where things are placed and how they're situated. I mean, it's amazing.
And, the podcast deals with history, and that's a large part of, and I know part of Mayor Fleischer's platform is idea of preservation, which is great. And you look at DC as a great, and Mount Vernon especially is a great reflection of that. You look at how the organizations and groups that have bought even just the site view to be able to keep the view the same as it was when George Washington lived there. I mean, that's to another level, but it's a great commitment to preserving that history. So enough about that stuff.
I could go on and on and on about that.
So tell us a little bit about your family.
So I married my college sweetheart. We've been married, it will be 23 years, if I do the math correctly, 23 years.
Okay.
I have 2 children, Jameson, my oldest, who's in 6th grade, and then Colette, my youngest, who's in 4th grade. They keep me really busy with sports, in and out of soccer and swim and everything else that they have. A lot of my life right now is on the soccer field or in a swimming pool watching that go off. So it's fun.
So besides sports, is there anything else you guys do for fun?
I like to, and I know Jameson's sitting over there and he'll smirk at me. I like doing excursions. I call them the excursions, the mom excursions, and they always roll their eyes at me. I like to take them and explore different areas. We've done a lot of different exploration in Mokena with the different cemeteries, just even walking down Front Street in the summer, and visiting their surrounding towns and getting to know their history too. So I like to try to, like in Washington, when I try to find off the beat kind of things, I try to every summer do that with the kids too, is trying to find these different excursions that they'll remember and be like, oh, Mom, we talked about this in school, and I could, relate it to an activity we did. And this past summer we did a family book, like a book club, and we read a book. And our journey ended up in Terre Haute, Indiana, because the story was based out of there. So it was a pretty fun excursion. So. Oh,
that's very cool. Yeah. Any of the adventures that you found that end up really sticking out or being a great find?
I feel like everything is fun that we do, so it's hard to pick just one that, hey, this is, what it is. I'm sure the kids would say anytime we stop for ice cream on the way home.
Sure.
But no, they're troopers because they're willing to go along with it, and I just love the idea of being able to go through the town and experience it with the kids and, show them this is why we live here, and this is important to come meet the community and be out in the community and be one with it.
Yeah.
So,
what do they think of all this? What do they think of the campaigning and running for trustee?
Before I actually decided to run, I ran it past my husband and the kids, and it was no doubt in their minds, yes, Mom, you should do it. Mom, we will support you. Whatever you need us to do. That's why Jameson's here tonight, because he's like, I want to come and support and see what you have to say. They've been on board, and Jameson has helped walk through the neighborhood and pass out flyers and telling people, please vote for my mom. And it's been really fun to see the campaign through their eyes and for them to see how you can make a difference, and why running is important, to have a voice and stand for, what you want to see happen in the town and make a difference on where you can live. So.
Yeah, that's great. What made you want to be a teacher?
Great question. I really enjoy the idea of every day is a different day. And yes, you have the set curriculum, but you can be so creative on how you can approach the curriculum and how you can convey that to students and kids. At Sandberg, it's sophomores that take it, so a lot of the kids are starting to get their license. They can't vote yet, but are they into government or are they not into government? So to be able to present the topics in a fun, exciting, creative way to have them buy into, okay, I may not like government, but I'm learning and it's fun to learn and see it, with current events, I've really enjoyed.
Obviously, we just went through the presidential election.
Yeah.
Did you notice a difference in engagement this year or with kids being interested, even though they're not necessarily voting age?
Right. Over the last couple of years, there has been more of a quiet willingness, if I can approach it that way, where in the past, a lot of kids were more vocal and wanting to explain why they would support a particular candidate over another. And over the course of the last few years, it's quieted a little bit. And it could be because of the polarization and not necessarily wanting to have deep conversations with others, but the kids have been a little bit more reserved in their approach to the election this past year. So,
how have you seen teaching change in the time that you've been a teacher?
The main thing is technology. Technology has been the key on how it's changed, and to be ahead of technology within the classroom has been something that's been fun. It's been a struggle at times, but it's interesting on how, when I started, we were still using like the overhead projectors and you would have to, reel the TVs in. Obviously now that's non-existent. I feel like I'm so old because of that.
Talk about the olden
right?
days, right?
Like you would clap the erasers together. But no, with technology, it has been a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it's allowed for more creativity and more student engagement. But at the same time, it's trying to still get original thought from the students, because there's a lot of AI and ChatGPT that has aided kids in completing assignments. It's just how to adapt that into the classroom and show them that yes, you can use it, but in a positive way and not let it do all the work for you. So.
It's interesting. When I talked to some of the school board candidates, they brought up that idea, and it's not one of those things you can't just stick your head in the sand.
Right.
It's going to be embraced,
right.
But how to use that in a responsible way.
Yeah, and now with those AI, the Ray-Ban Meta glasses that would broadcast over the Super Bowl, like that's going to be the next wave of things. So it's always just trying to stay ahead. And it's like, okay, how could we adapt this? Like, where could we take this? Could we take it on a tour somewhere? Could we have a field trip with it in the classroom? Just all these different things going on. So
what do you love about being a teacher?
I love the kids. I love how they keep me on my toes. I try to keep them on their toes, but they do the same thing to me. I love that engagement that they have. I love their love for learning. Obviously kids have different levels of their engagement of learning, but they're all willing to participate and they're all willing to be advocates for their education, which I really appreciate. And seeing them mature over, the 4 years that they're there, is fun. And, hearing stories when they, come back and, talk about the class. I've had a few kids, because of how my classroom's set up, invite me to their weddings because they met in my class, and the way I did the groupings, they're like, yeah, we met in your class and we wouldn't have met because of this.
Oh,
and,
wow.
it's fun.
20 years.
I know.
You've got the full life cycle there, right?
And I'm waiting for their kids to come through. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm that old yet, but it's going to happen. But I also coach, so that's something that is, a blessing too, that I can see kids not only in the classroom, but then also in the gym, and have a different relationship in terms of, player to coach rather than teacher to student. So,
what do you coach?
Badminton. So
Badminton?
I do, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about high school badminton.
Yeah.
Is it a big sport? Is it popular? Or?
You know what it is? It's more or less a northern sport. The southernmost school is Bradley Bourbonnais that has badminton, but it's mostly, from us up north and to the
okay.
west. No, it's fun. It is a big sport. There's, badminton clubs around in the western suburbs that girls will go and it's a female sport. So girls will go and they'll do that in the summer or off season. And I was lucky enough to coach the girls to a state championship.
Wow.
Several years ago, but that was an honor. And I mean, that team was a joy to coach. So they were fun. They were a fun group.
So what do you think about being a teacher will help you as a village trustee?
My background in education has allowed me the ability to be equipped with, critical thinking skills, the willing, to be able to lead effectively, as well as encourage collaboration amongst all stakeholders. I think those three things are something that I do each day that I can bring to the role of trustee. So,
yeah, collaboration, is important because even if your whole slate gets in, you're in a mixed. So,
right.
how would you deal with maybe differences of opinion or different ideas?
I think it's important to listen. Which, I mean, all of this is, I'm on the stage every day in the classroom, but it's important also to listen. And that's, I think, something that if and when we do get elected, that there will be differences of opinions, not only probably within our slate, but, others that are on the board as well, to be able to take what they're saying and see how we can work together to come up with compromise, to see, what other agencies could also be helpful in decisions that we're making, as well as to listen to the community too. I think working with the community and seeing what the community wants and has to offer is something that is essential to the growth of our town.
So communication is key. Can you think of any other ways that the village could improve their communication with the village, with residents?
I think social media is something that is essential, especially for the younger families. More people are on Instagram, Facebook, X, right? I still call it Twitter. But I think having more of a footprint on social media to allow the younger families and the youth of the community to see what we're doing and to have a voice is important. And then allowing for, the traditional communication too, having access to easier ways on the website to get to the newsletter. Something when I go onto the village website just to see the newsletter for the month, it's not just one click and it's there. It's, about 4 different clicks to get to what I want. So making things more accessible, easier to get to, easier to find, so everybody's aware of what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's good. Are there any areas or places you can think of that the village could cut costs or bring in additional revenues?
It's always attractive to have new businesses come to Mokena. I think there's still opportunities for growth in terms of enticing businesses to come to Mokena, especially off of 191st. There's a lot of land that's available. And I think that we're in a prime position now with the new it's not a rec center, but the new fields going up by Silver Cross, the baseball and soccer fields that are going up there, that it's a large recreational area that if we bring businesses to Mokena, if there's tournaments out there, to attract people from those tournaments to stay in Mokena, to eat in Mokena, to come visit Mokena even, just to see what we have to offer. So
how do you think the village should go about attracting those businesses or bringing them in?
Well, one, I think it's important to see what the families want, what the community wants, right? In terms of businesses, I think that's a place to start, whether it's through Having people come in or filling out surveys to see what would be essential for them. But then what would be equitable? The one thing I don't want Mokena to lose is the charm. Mokena has a rich history, and it's okay to evolve that history and to modernize that history, but to not lose that high quality of life and charm that Mokena has to offer. So it's, seeing what would be a good fit and not just, this is the biggest bang for the buck. No, let's look at everything as a whole and how it will fit within, our values here in this village.
You all have talked a lot at the meet and greet about downtown and what that you'd like to see it changed and bring life to that. So what would, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it over Front Street,
Sure.
what does that look like to you?
It looks like a gathering place to me for families to come and hang out, to socialize, to bring picnics, and just have a place to meet. It would have more restaurants, it would have more family-friendly establishments, whether that's, I know like ice cream shops are out there, but not even that. Blooming Art, I love that studio, but have more opportunities, little shops where families could go with kids, and to have the opportunity to explore and just come together.
Are there any ideas you can think of things the village can do to make it more friendly to business? We've kind of have had the reputation in the past of sometimes being difficult to work with, or so not that I expect you to be a construction
Right,
but what can we do to open it up, make businesses realize we want them here?
I think establishing a working relationship right off the bat, talking to the businesses and saying, we support you and we have your best interests in mind. And, even setting up activities for families to go to these new establishments, whether it's, an evening walk or, all these other towns around us do different, events that will attract people to the downtown, but to show these businesses, if you're coming in, we're going to have these different activities, these different community events that will be inclusive for everybody within the town, to come see, your business, your company, whatever it may be, and we're going to support whatever they need in order to continue for them to grow.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that the village faces over the next 5 to 10 years?
It's a good question. I think it's still going to be growth. There will be a point where Mokena's landlocked. And just being able to sustain the traditions we have in Mokena while continuing to grow into the modernization of, what other communities have to offer, and staying on track to be able to grow with the demands of what our community wants. And it's going to be diverse. In terms of what people want is going to be all over the board, but coming up with a consensus of, as a whole community, where do we see ourselves, right? And I know at the meet and greet I mentioned that, as you know, Mokena, we're the only Mokena in the entire country. How could we make a name for that? Mokena already has a wonderful name. When you talk and people say, oh, where you're from, you say Mokena, and they're like, oh, we've been there. But it's how to really communicate to people, like, this is a place you want to call home. This is a place you want to come and live. This is a place you want to come and you want to raise a family. And when your kids grow up and they go to college, that they're going to want to come back and start their own families here, And as I said at the beginning, I grew up in Frankfurt, and when looking around, we found our house in Mokena, and it was just like, no, this is where we're going to be. And we've had opportunities to look elsewhere over the years, and it's just like, no, Mokena's our home, and this is where we brought our kids home to, and this is where they call home, and I can't ever foresee leaving that, and I want them to want to come back.
Well, that's tough. It's tough to keep that retention and have, kids come back after
Right.
they've gone to school or whatever it is. And,
Yeah.
our parks in town are a very attractive thing to young families as well as youth. How do you think you could work with the parks to, improve our village and make it better?
Yeah, I think the increase of green spaces is essential, especially since there are opportunities to grow. I would love to work hand in hand with the parks to see what else we can add. I mean, right now the craze is pickleball, and I live closer to Heck Park, and there's those pickleball courts. Oh, I think I've got it reserved for July because they're always still packed. But seeing what else could be done to increase those green spaces to allow for more opportunities for pickleball or for other activities that will come up and be the craze here in the next 10, 20 years. So working together to showcase the parks, because we do have great parks around Mokena. And when the kids were really little in the summer, we would take park tours, just because you go to the same park and they get bored with it. So we
Sure.
did. We found all the different parks in all the different neighborhoods.
There's a lot of them out there.
There are a ton, and they all are different and unique in their own way. But to work with the park and have parties in the park, or activities where on a summer day bring out some food trucks at a park by Heck Park, or over by Main Park, and just do fun activities that would be free for the community to come out and showcase what we have.
And I think the food trucks on Front that we did this summer was a great example, one, of people having a desire to come down and do something on Front Street in downtown Mokena, as well as, again, like you said, maybe taking that idea and creating spaces where people can gather, maybe at a Heck Park, do a similar event. But creating ways to create community,
Right.
Is huge. I don't know if you got to go to any of those food trucks on Front, but it just was such a sense of community. You had music playing and people are hanging out, and that's great. Like, that's such a small town.
It's small town, and it's simple. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It could just be something that pulls everybody together and just gives people the opportunity to, hey, I haven't seen you, especially now that we're coming out of winter, having springtime come, summer come, like everybody's going to be out, and how to bring everybody together as one.
Yeah.
So
one of the ideas that the village has been talking about is the building of a new village hall at some point in the future. So maybe tell us your thoughts on that. Maybe where you'd like to see, what you'd like to see, what you would expect in a new village hall.
I think that a new village hall would be nice. The new police station is beautiful. It would be nice to have a village hall close by the police station, where it would be in partnership, that it would be close in relations to more accessible thoroughfares to get to. I would like to see a village hall that would be inclusive for all to come and be open for all the community to come to. I look at where the village hall is in Frankfurt, or where the village hall is in New Lenox, and it's around green spaces. And it welcomes the families to want to be close to it, to want to come to the meetings, and to want to see, what the village actually does. Because when you talk to people, they'll always say, well, what does a trustee do? Well, what will you actually be doing? And explaining to those that I've met door to door, or those that I've met at the meet and greet, just to be able to show them, like, hey, you know what, come, let's take a tour, and let's have it be more open, so then people know what we do, or what we will do within the community.
One thing you hear about a lot, and I've seen it, I've gone to village board meetings, and there's really nobody there usually, unless you have a reason to come.
Right.
Any ideas or things you could think of, maybe a way to maybe make those more visible, or get people more interested?
I agree in terms of the attendance at the board meetings.
And they're not exciting meetings. I'm not.
And that's really any, board meeting that you go to, whether it's a village hall or a school board meeting.
Sure.
Although sometimes school board meetings can be a little feisty. But no, in terms of attracting people, I think that it'd be great to work with the local schools to showcase students and what students have done in the classroom. Have a student spotlight time within the agenda to say, hey, this is what, Mokena Elementary School is doing, or hey, this is what, because some of our constituents do go to 161. Here's what 161 is doing, and bringing in those students so then the families come in and they can see what we're doing, and they could be honored through that. I think that would be a start, because I think if you show the kids at a young age that, hey, come to the meeting, this is what we do at a meeting, they're going to want to come and at least listen, or at one time maybe they want to advocate for something and they can learn how to do that. So I think that would be a great start to do.
Yeah.
So, and I know the board does honor students and what they've done, but just do it more on a continual basis.
Yeah, no, that's great. Are there any specific initiatives or policies that you would like to champion as a trustee?
Not particularly. And here's why. Where I'm not going to come out and say this is exactly what I want to do, because at the end of the day, I'm one person and I've got to work with the board. And I think it's important that when the new board is elected, that we all sit down at that time and say, okay, here's, in the next 4 years, because the majority of us will be elected for a 4-year term. Over the next 4 years, this is what we want to tackle together and be on the same page going forward, instead of having everybody come in with their own ideas and then blocking others. Again, it goes back to that collaboration and that communication, and saying, okay, let's work together and pick the top 3, top 4, whatever it may be, because obviously some initiatives will be easier to implement than others, like revitalizing the downtown area. That's not something that's going to happen within 6 months or a year. That's going to take 5 to 10 years to do. It's, going to grow over time. And that's the reality of it. For anybody to say that it could be done in a year or 2, it's not going to be. And that's what I think has to be, mentioned as well, because by the time we are elected, we can have all these plans set through and have those goals in mind, what we want to accomplish within the first 6 months, first year. And then by the time the 4 years is up, to then say, okay, if we start with the revitalization of downtown, here's where it's going to continue, whether, all those that are elected for another term of 4 years, or if there's going to be turnover, make sure that there's things in place where they know where to take forward. So
how do you think you as trustees will convey that message of what, you get elected, then we've come up with our plan. Is that something you'll share with the people? Because I think one criticism has always been, we've heard, for years, longer than I've been a resident, people hear about revitalizing downtown, and unfortunately it just has either got stuck or, for whatever reason. But so then we sit here again and we're going to revitalize downtown. And so how do we, how do we know that, yes, that you guys, you get elected, you go and you're going to start moving that train forward?
I would like to have more transparency with all of that. I know that's a catchphrase and it's a buzzword that everybody uses, but it really is having that transparency and making sure that every board meeting, when the trustees have their comments, that we tell the public, here's where we're at, here's the process that we're in. And I know some things, can be shared and can't be shared just because of logistics with everything. But putting it in the newsletter, that you get with your water bill, or that you take the 4 clicks to get to online, that just having that open communication and making sure that that's readily available. And whether it's, quarterly that we send out an actual flyer, or we put something in the newspaper just so everybody knows, like, this is what we're doing and we hear what you want and this is how we're moving forward with it. That's something that I do in my classroom, right? Whenever, we have an agenda with activities, it's always that constant reminder with the students and making sure these kids always know that here's what we're doing, here's, the next step. And it's the same thing. Like, you have to let everybody know we are, trying and we are moving forward. It just, again, it's not going to happen overnight. And it just has to happen.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Sure. And that's the frustrating, a lot of, it is hard to do, but the idea of opening that communication and saying, we are starting to make that progress, I think is important and will help appease or people understand a little more. So the theme of our podcast is history and community. So if you were a new resident in our community, what would you, or talking to a new resident in our community, what advice would you give them to get involved and tied into the community?
I would tell them explore. Just explore what the community has to offer. There's so many different areas of Mokena. I mean, there's West Side, South Side, East Side, right? And then there's the centralized, right? Just explore all of the community because the community has so much to offer. Go to the VFW, because you're going to meet a lot of fun people at the VFW. Go to Post-Game Pub. You're going to meet a lot of fun people there. Walk down, Wolf Road to the different businesses and, see the different cemeteries. Again, circling back to the cemeteries, with what Mokena is, what it was, and where it can go, right? So just explore, have that adventure, and just really immerse yourself and go to the community events that you can go to, because there are great, events like, food trucks on Front Street. The 4th of July parade is fantastic. Even your tours that you do, even though you can't do it in person, you can still watch your podcast and you can take them on your own. And so, just get out there and become one, because that's how you meet different people and that's how you become, invested within the community and making it yours. Because at the end of the day, you're, as a family or as a new person to the town, you have to make the most of it. So use your time.
So as a teacher, bringing that perspective as a trustee, there's a lot of intergovernmental workings. The schools are a big part of our village here. How do you think your perspective as a teacher can help you better work with our schools?
The needs for the schools obviously are pretty consistent across the board. And, being in the classroom each day, I know the struggles as well as the rewards that it takes to be a teacher, and the struggles and the rewards of being in education overall. And it'll allow me to have a nice relationship with the schools within Mokena, to see what they need and to see what we can help them with, and have an open communication of, if there's anything the village can do to help out in terms of, recreations or community events, showcasing what is done at the school, that we would be there to, at least I would be there to help as much as I could. So.
All right. Well, I've got a couple more casual questions.
Why did you start with those? That's what you need to start with.
All right. So, do you have a favorite restaurant?
In Mokena?
Well, I'll leave that up to you.
We do enjoy going to Post-Game Pub. It's close to the house, but also it is family friendly with all the games that they have that you can play at the table. So it's a nice wide variety of menus if you've never been there. The hamburgers are fantastic.
They are. Favorite hamburger at Post-Game?
I'm just a really simple cheese and bacon kind of girl.
Okay. I like their black and blue.
That's good too. And the mushroom Swiss. The mushroom Swiss is good too.
Okay.
As you can see, I enjoyed their hamburgers.
This is an ad for Post-Game Pub.
But no, we like going there as a family just because it does have a lot of space, and like I said, the games that you can just bring to your table and play, and you can just watch the games and be immersed in the community. So
yeah,
it's nice.
If you could master one skill instantly, what would it be?
Master one skill instantly. Oh, that's a good one. What skill would I want to master? Playing the guitar. That's what
a good one.
that's the one I would want to do. That or sign language. If I could do sign language instantly, that would be something that I
Why
would do.
sign language?
I think it's beautiful. And I think that it's a language that obviously it's universal, but it just communicate with individuals that may not be part of the able-bodied community. So bring more bring more inclusiveness with that.
Yeah, very cool. How about what is your favorite Mokena community event?
It's got to be the 4th of July parade, hands down. That is always, you never know what you're going to see. I mean, you know what you're going to see, but you never know what you're going to see. And the amount of people that just come out for that parade, it is an awesome event, and everybody is smiling and having fun, and it truly shows off who we are as a village. So
do you have like your spot you guys go to every year? Do you just find one? Or?
So we've kind of moved around a little bit. We used to be kind of by Burcott's on the corner there, but now we've kind of moved to over by the VFW. So now we've turned. We've turned the corner a little bit. So that is now where we go.
Nice.
So
have you ever walked in the parade before?
I have not walked in the parade before, but it'd be fun to do. Although the kids love the candy. I mean, I think they get more candy at that parade than they do at Halloween. I mean, they get plenty at Halloween, but there's a ton of candy.
Yeah, we always come home with tons of stuff.
And it's just not candy. It's koozies or necklaces or free ice cream. Frisbees. I mean, it's amazing because you never know what's going to happen.
It is such a great event, and
really
one of those things like people come around, from outside the area, and great event every year. And what is your go-to coffee order?
I don't drink coffee.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a hot chocolate connoisseur.
Okay.
I love hot chocolate. At Starbucks, it's a non-fat, no whip, extra hot chocolate. So I'm a hot chocolate girl.
That's the fanciest sounding chocolate I've ever heard of.
It's so good, yeah. So that's.
Good. And how about what local business would you say you support the most? Post game.
Right. I'll be a little biased here. It's going to be BU Therapy, which is owned by Lauren Palmer. Full disclosure, she's my sister. So yes, that is the one that.
We'll talk about that a little bit. I got to meet her at the meet and greet. Tell me about that. What you know about that?
So BU Therapy is
right down from Post Game.
Right down from Post Game Pub. Great location, Lauren. No, it's she's an occupational therapist. Actually, she has her doctorate in OT. And she has taught in colleges and has worked with families for special needs children as well as adults. And she back in, right before COVID, she decided that she wanted to open her own business, and she got the ball rolling. And officially, it just happened to be on my birthday, started BU Therapy. Which allows for her to expand to local families with inclusive offerings that they have for their clients and their participants. And part of it's non-for-profit, where they do the HIGH program, and they do a few different like craft fairs and have different stores that they will go and they'll sell things. And she's done amazing with that business, and I'm really excited to see where she continues to go with it, because she has so many ideas of how to expand and how to grow. And just talking to her and seeing what her business concept would be, it would be awesome for her to be able to expand in Mokena too. So,
did you get any idea from her about what her experience was like bringing business into town?
I did. It was very helpful. She got a lot of help from the chamber, a lot of help from the village, in order to find a location and then, go through the permits and all the build out that she needed. So, she had a nice experience with it.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah.
Well, great. This is really good to talk to you and get to know you, and share. Get to have you share about why you're running. But if you want to just take a second and maybe tell people why they should vote for you.
Again, I'm Kimberly Huelsman. Thank you for watching this podcast. I do hope that you do come out and vote April 1st and vote for me for Village Trustee. I'm running because I believe in honoring the rich history of Mokena and moving towards a vibrant future that's modern for families. I do want to show the youth of our village the importance of having a voice and making a difference. I do want to be able to help families grow and want to stay within Mokena. And I want to do what's best for the community as a whole. I don't have an agenda that I'm going to come in and, on day one, this is what I have to do. I want to be a trustee that's working with others, and we're all moving towards a common goal. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, well, again, thank you. And be sure to check out all the candidate interviews on the website and all the election and updates that we have. And again, Kim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And vote by April 1st.
Yes.